One of my roommates is currently writing a paper on food safety in China, and she's very interested in how the organic movement in China, whether or not the push for the organic movement in China now is spurred by like food safety fears and all the outbreaks of dangerous things that are happening in the really highly processed food that a lot of Chinese people eat. So in order to do that, she wanted to go to this really fantastic organic farm called Biofarm. Unfortunately, she's just a first year student, so she doesn't speak a lot of Chinese, so she asked me to go, and that scared me silly because, like, I didn't want all that pressure put on me. Fortunately, my friends Mary and Alina were here. You saw them in a couple videos ago. A little reminder here. I invited them to come, and also Tiana came as well, so with the combined power of four like semi-okay Chinese speakers, we were able to piece together what our guide at the farm was saying. One of the really interesting things about organic farming in China is, unlike the rest of the world, or unlike most of the rest of the world, organic farming is especially difficult here because due to the high amount of pollutants that are already in the air, in order to make truly organic food here in China, and especially Shanghai and the areas near cities, you have to actively work to make sure no chemicals get in. Because if you just let the plants grow on their own, without using pesticides, without using any dangerous chemicals or toxins in order to help them grow, they're still not going to be considered truly organic because of the amount of chemicals that are already existing in the air, water, and soil. So if you took the village farmer, who technically is farming organic, he's not covering in pesticides or using fertilizer made from crazy amounts of nitrogen bases and terrible for everything. If you tested those plants, they'd still probably have a fair amount of dangerous chemicals and wouldn't qualify as organic just because of what's already in the soil and the air and the rain and everything that goes into growing those plants. So when you grow organic in China, everything really has to be grown in a greenhouse. You have to get your own fertilizer. So this farm that we went to, they have this lovely little thing. It's very small, but they utilize things like their goats and their geese and their rabbits to create good organic fertilizer that they have composting in. Essentially, they have their own greenhouses for the compost, so that the compost doesn't get contaminated by the dirty rainwater or any of the issues in the already ground soil. So they lay them out, and then all the plants that they grow, they feed the plants back to their animals. They don't give the animals outside plants because they don't want to have the animals' fertilizer contaminated. All the plants are grown in special greenhouses where they have their water filtration system, because as wonderful as it is to just like let the natural cycle take place, and when it rains, especially since in this area there's a really high concentration of SO2, which is one of the major factors in acid rain. No rain for these plants, so they have their greenhouse with their own filtration system. Fortunately, they still use mostly natural water and they're not like pumping it in from somewhere else. They've rerouted a natural stream to go by where they have several layers of filtration. First they have an area of lily pads, and then they have an area where they're growing fish, and then there's another screen filter, and then it actually goes into a mechanical filter afterward. So it's really fantastic and beautiful, and the farm has such a wonderful mission statement about health and fairness and equality. So they try to treat all their animals and all their plants as they would treat people, and all the people working on the farm are rationed out, so they only get the same amount as each other, and the animals get a certain amount, and it was just really lovely. And our guide was incredibly wonderful and probably one of the most eloquent Chinese speakers. I often find myself getting pretty cynical about the Chinese language, probably just because it's been so hard studying it all, and I'm just very much like, oh, English, I love speaking English. But some of the things this guy said, it was just very poignantly beautiful and very simple, and I saw some of the beauty that like attracted me to Chinese language in the first place. Tiana and the name of our guide, really hit it off. He was absolutely adorable and really loved sharing everything about the farm with us. So I'm very grateful that they welcomed us in and showed us all the amazing things. What we all thought was really fascinating about Yayo was how excited he got about bug killing, essentially. They have some of the really standard ways that you're used to seeing bugs get caught on farms. They had the sticky paper, and then they had like little traps where they got attracted by a flower smell, and then they got stuck and they couldn't get out. And there's also this very big solar powered thing. During the day, collects this light and turns it into energy through the solar panel, and then at night it emits this blue glow that refracts along the glass and tracks all the bugs, and then the bugs run into the glass and they die and they fall down. And then they use the dead bug carcasses, they put it right back into the fertilizer. So it was a very cool, holistic farm, and they were all very nice and super happy to show us around. It's really awesome to find out that they have farmers markets almost every weekend in various parts of Shanghai, so you can get around to them, which is just really great. And I had such a wonderful time, and I'm so glad to see that even in this super dense, people-packed city where you barely ever see proper grass that isn't fenced off and not letting you walk on it, that such a really good, pure little organic farm can exist and is feeding so many people. Because she was running the report, essentially I just stole all the information that she had asked him and used it in here. But the thing that I found most interesting was she asked what his clientele was, and he said it's about half Chinese people and half foreigners. Which at first I was like, oh, that's great, it's even. But then I realized, but China is far from, at least even Shanghai is far from half foreigners and half Chinese. So it's definitely, the push is, at least this farm, the push is definitely from the foreigners looking for organic food. So it's really interesting to see, like, has China, are Chinese people as a whole moving toward organic more and more, or is it more and more foreigners coming to the country because it's getting easier and easier for foreigners to come to China, pushing for it? So it's who's influencing who, rather. So like, is it the farm's all run by Chinese people, so is it them like having this great big push to have an organic farm, or is it all of these new Westerners here that are like, I want what I'm used to back at home, give me my milk, give me my organic veggies? So I found that kind of fascinating and interesting to think about. I, of course, have no idea what the real answer to that is. Anyway, now I have to go study and do all sorts of crazy work that I didn't do while I was having fun playing with goats and looking at terracotta soldiers. So I hope you enjoyed this two-part video thing. If you didn't realize this was two parts and you didn't see the first part, you can watch it here. It's about the terracotta warriors that I saw in Xi'an. Otherwise, I will be back on next Monday. So have a great week until then. Bye!